wherever you are listening or watching Radio Afinju. The time is 7 a.m.
Ẹ bá mi pè o. Àfínjú. Kí lorúkọ rẹ̀? Àfínjú. Rédíò. Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo Àfínjú. Lórí WhatsApp. Àfínjú. Instagram. Àfínjú. Facebook. Àfínjú. Lórí X. Àfínjú. Lórí YouTube. Àfínjú. Lórí TikTok. Àfínjú. Kí lorúkọ rẹ̀? Àfínjú. Ẹ bá mi pè o. Àfínjú. Rédíò. Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń gbọ́ Àfínjú. Gbogbo èèyàn ló ń wo Àfínjú. Rédíò Àfínjú. Rédíò Àfínjú. Rédíò Àfínjú.
Stay informed, connected, and stay ahead. Wake up to the headlines that matter. Eat the Dailies, your 1-hour daily newspaper review program where we bring you the biggest headlines making the rounds across Nigeria's major newspapers, from politics, business, entertainment, sport, and more. Join us every Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Radio Afinju as we analyze, discuss, and break down the news shaping our nation. Your voice matters too. Call us live on 0912-111-1115 or share your thought in the comment section on our Facebook page and let's hear what you think. Also, log on to our website www.afinjufm.com. The Dailies, where news meets conversation. Only on Radio Afinju.
Stay informed with news on Radio Afinju.
Good morning. It is my hope that you had a very restful night, and I welcome you to this morning's edition of the Dailies on Radio Afinju, where we look at the stories that made the front pages of our national newspapers. This morning I have with me just 3 newspapers to look at, and quickly we will look at the stories on the front pages. But before we do that, quickly follow Radio Afinju on all social media platforms, especially YouTube, Facebook, X, all at Radio Afinju. You can also listen to our audio stream on our website at www.afinjufm.com or go to radio.garden or Zeno Radio, search for Afinju, and you will find us there and you will hear us crystal clear. My name is Pearl Durotoye and I welcome you to the Dailies. Again, I have just 3 papers with me this morning. I have The Punch, I have New Telegraph, and I have The Nation. Let's start from The Punch. We have the story here: Power struggles tears PDP apart. Power struggles tear PDP apart. The next headline says PDP, NMPP, CUPP accused Tinubu of forcing defections. Another headline: rumored coup plot, 11 billion naira found in detained colonel's bank account. Rumored coup plot, 11 billion naira found in detained colonel's bank account. The next headline says federal government knows terror sponsors but lacks courage to prosecute. This is coming from the ex-defense director Olawumi. It says federal government knows terror sponsors but lacks the courage to prosecute. We'll be looking at the details of this headline soon. The next headline on the international scene: Trump to Nigeria, stop the killing or face military action. Trump to Nigeria, stop the killing or face military action. We wonder what that's about. We'll look at it in a minute. And then the last headline from the Punch for this morning: World Bank to consider Nigeria's fresh $1 billion loan request. World Bank to consider Nigeria's fresh $1 billion loan request. Moving on to the next paper for the morning, the New Telegraph newspaper. I have this headline here that says that Niger LG polls: violence and voter apathy mar elections. Niger local government polls: violence, voter apathy mars elections. And the next headline: NLC vows to resist alleged plan to politicize workers' compensation fund. NLC vows to resist alleged plan to politicize workers' compensation fund. And then the next headline, still on the New Telegraph: Constitution review: North South demand 31 and 24 new states. Constitution review: North and South demands 31 and 24 new states. I'll be pointing you where that is on the New Telegraph in a minute. And then the last story from the New Telegraph: federal government releases 43.3 billion naira to health workers. That's from the New Telegraph. And now on to The Nation. The first story for this morning: resident doctors begin indefinite nationwide strike over unmet demands. Resident doctors begin indefinite nationwide strike over unmet demands. And this next headline: EFCC suspends officers over alleged 10 million naira extortion of rapper. This is a story, this is a development to a particular story. We'll be looking at that in a minute. And then the next headline: Tinubu rejects U.S. redesignation of Nigeria as a country of concern. Tinubu rejects U.S. redesignation of Nigeria as a country of concern. And then finally from The Nation, we have this headline that says: days of political marginalization of Southeast gone. That's coming from Umai. So these are the stories and the news that we will be looking at on the dailies this morning, while also pointing you in the right direction while you grab your national newspapers. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. You're welcome back. It's still the dailies on Radio Afinju. Now let's go on and take a look at these stories that I've read the headline earlier. I'll start with the New Telegraph with this headline here that says Niger LG polls: violence and voter apathy mar elections. Niger LG polls: violence, voter apathy mar elections. There was low voter turnout across Niger State on Saturday during the local government elections, which also witnessed violence in some of the polling units. When a New Telegraph correspondent visited some polling units in Boso, Suleja, Paikoro, and Chanchaga local government areas, it was observed that voters and electoral officers arrived at polling units around 10 a.m., while in other places there were voters on ground as early as 8 a.m., but there were no electoral officers. This was as the Niger Police Public Relations Officer Wasiu Abiodun confirms the burning of electoral sensitive materials in Magama local government area, saying some people have been arrested. Saturday Telegraph gathered that election materials were set on fire by angry residents following reports of missing results sheets in the materials in Nasco Magama local government area, after the residents accused officials of attempting to manipulate the election process. And it was also reliable gathered that the target was the INEC office, but residents around pleaded with the irate youths that burning off the INEC office would affect their houses. However, an official of the Niger State Independent Electoral Commission, NCEC, who pleaded anonymity, claimed they were able to save some of the sensitive materials, even though others got burnt and elections held in some words. So that's the update on the Niger LG pose of violence and voter apathy elections. I wonder for how long this is going to continue. I mean, even if you do not trust in the election process, I do not think burning of election materials or planning to burn the INEC office is the solution. But you can read more details on this story and this election on page 8 of the New Telegraph. A look at the next headline from the New Telegraph. NLC vows to resist alleged plan to politicize workers' compensation fund. Nigeria Labour Congress has condemned a proposed amendment to the Employees Compensation Act, ECA, currently before the Senate, describing it as an attempt to capture and politicize workers' funds. Speaking at the 2025 annual conference of the Labour Correspondents Association of Nigeria in Abuja, NLC President Joe Ajero said the union would resist any move to divert contributions meant for injured workers and their families. He said, and I quote, "This fund is the lifeblood of workers' solidarity. It was contributed by workers for their welfare and not as a political slush fund. We will resist this appropriation with every fiber of our being." Ajero further urged the National Assembly to halt what he described as anti-labor legislative efforts that could weaken workers' protection, undermine collective bargaining, and erode decent work standards, while also criticizing the proposed special economic zone laws, which he said would permit certain companies to operate outside national labor standards, an arrangement he warned would violate ILO Conventions 87 and 98. But that's just a part of the story. You can find more on this headline and the story on page 6 of the New Telegraph. NLC vows to resist alleged plan to politicize workers' compensation fund. Next headline from the Telegraph still. Constitution review. North-South demand 31 and 24 new states. I'll take that again. Constitution review. North-South demand 31 and 24 new states. As the National Assembly gears up for yet another round of amendments to the 1999 Constitution, the Joint Ad Hoc Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives has received proposals for the creation of 55 new states in Nigeria. That's quite a number. The proposals are coming from groups within the existing 36 states and Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. In terms of regional consideration, the Northern region has 31 requests, while the Southern region has made demands for a total of 24 new states requests. Sunday Telegraph gathered that out of the plethora of requests from the North Central Geopolitical Zone leads the pack with 14 proposals, and the requests included 1 state, Edo State, Okun State, South Plateau State, Lowland State, New Kogi State, Plateau State, Ife Sowakpo State, Abuja State, Okura State, Akwa State, Akwa Agba State, and Ayatutu State. The Northwest Geopolitical Zone has submitted 9 proposals for the creation of a new state, according to a document exclusively obtained by the Sunday Telegraph. And the requests include Gurara State, New Kaduna State, Karaduwa State, Hadejia State, Bayajida State, Gobir State, Kainji State, and Tiga State. Similarly, Northeast Geopolitical Zone has 8 proposals for state creation, which are Savannah State, Highland State, Kwararafa State, Katagum State, Amana State, South Sardauna State, and Muri State. The document also shows that every geopolitical zone in southern Nigeria is desirous of having new states. In the southwest, the proposed new entities include Remo State, Coastal State, Lagoon State, Isheriolofin Mole State, Ijebu State, Ibomina State, Okyogun State, Ibadan State, New Oyo State, and Ifejesha State. From the southeast, we have Etiti State, Aba State, Adada State, Orashi State, Anim State, Olu State, and Anyoma State. Then in the south, we have Atlantic City State, Bori State, Iwuroha State, Obolo State, Wari State, Ethiopia State, Toru Ebe State, and Ogoja State. And that and many more details on the state creation and the constitution review can be found on page 2 of the New Telegraph. Constitution review, North and South demand 31 and 24 new states. What do you think of this request and development? Do you think it's something that is visible? Love to hear from you. Just let us know on our Facebook page on Radio Afinju. And finally, from the New Telegraph, I have this headline that says the federal government releases 43.3 billion naira to health workers. Federal government releases 43.3 billion naira to health workers. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to improving the welfare of doctors and other. I'll take that again. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to improving the welfare of doctors and other health workers with over 43.3 billion naira already disbursed or in process for payment to address outstanding arrears, allowances, and training funds. The Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Isiaq Salako, who made this disclosure at a high-level meeting between the ministry and leadership of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NAD), said the government remains determined to sustain industrial harmony and reform the health sector by prioritizing workers' well-being. According to a statement signed by the Deputy Director and Head of Information and Public Relations of the Ministry, Alaba Balogun, on Saturday in Abuja, the federal government, in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance, commenced the payment of 7 months arrears of the 25% and 35% upward review of CONMES and CONHAS to all categories of health workers. The statement further disclosed that 10 billion naira was paid in August 2025, while another 21.3 billion naira has been moved to the IPPIS account for payment as of October 30th, 2025. But then that's only part of the story. You can read more on it on page 5 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Federal government releases 43.3 billion naira for health workers, begins fresh recruitment drive. I'm only wondering why it had to get up to the point of a strike before all these disbursements are occurring. But that's just my opinion. You can let me have yours in the comment section. Moving on to the next paper for the morning, which is the Punch newspaper. I'll start with this story from the PDP camp. This headline says, "Power struggle tears PDP apart." Power struggles tears PDP apart. The People's Democratic Party has been plunged into a fresh round of turmoil as a fierce leadership tussle within its National Working Committee split the opposition party into two warring factions. On Saturday, each faction announced the suspension of the other in an escalation of internal hostilities. That's quite an interesting development. The latest crisis, which erupted barely 24 hours after a federal high court in Abuja halted the party's planned national convention slated for November 15th and 16th in Ibadan, Oyo State, has further deepened the rift between loyalists of the acting national chairman Umar Damagum and the bloc aligned with the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. Sunday Punch gathered that at the heart of the conflict is the struggle for control of the party's leadership ahead of the next convention. While addressing journalists at the party's Legacy House headquarters in Abuja on Saturday, the National Publicity Secretary, Debo Oluwagba, announced the suspension of 4 key NWC members for alleged misconduct and anti-party activities. Those suspended are the National Legal Advisor Kamaldeen Ajibade, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the National Secretary Samuel Anyanwu, the Deputy Legal Advisor Okechukwu Osoha, and the National Organizing Secretary Umaru Bature. Oluwagba explained that the decision was taken after the emergency meeting of the NWC in line with sections 57 and 58 of the PDP Constitution, which empowers the committee to discipline members found guilty of acts capable of bringing the party into disrepute. That's that. And then let's move on to Anyawu's faction. A few hours later, a rival NWC group loyal to Anyanwu convened its own briefing at a separate venue in Abuja to announce the suspension of Damagum and 5 other national officers. Anyanwu declared that the decision became necessary to save the party from collapse and restore credibility to its leadership. And then reading from a prepared statement, the National Secretary said the emergency meeting of his faction resolved to suspend Damagum for incompetence, mismanagement of party funds, and alleged disobedience to court orders. I think at this point, this is what Gen Zs call aura for aura. Yeah, you do your own, I do my own. That's the story. Well, you can read more about this development on the Punch newspaper, page 3. Power struggle tears PDP apart. Apparently, all is not well in La La Land. Now let's move on to the next headline. Still talking politics. PDP, NNPP, CUPP accuse Tinubu of forcing defections. I'll take that again. PDP, NNPP, CUPP accuse Tinubu of forcing defections. Opposition parties have accused President Bola Tinubu of using public resources and anti-graft agencies to pressure opposition members into joining the All Progressives Congress. The party stated that the APC was on the verge of collapse following the recent wave of defections from opposition parties into its ranks. And in separate interviews with Sunday Punch, spokesperson for the People's Democratic Party, New Nigeria People's Party, and Coalition of United Political Parties, Depo Oluwagba, Oladipo Johnson, and Mark Adebayo, respectively, said an implosion was imminent in the APC. I don't know about that. Looks like this implosion is coming from the PDP, but let's move on. The APC Director of Publicity, Bala Ibrahim, stated that recent defections to the party were voluntary and inspired by the ruling party's achievements, not through coercion. He added that the APC was well structured, capable of managing its internal affairs effectively, and therefore would not experience any internal crisis. And then additionally, it says here that in recent months, the ruling APC has continued to receive several high-profile politicians from opposition parties, particularly the PDP. Among those who have joined include the Akwa Ibom State Governor Mo Eno, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevori, and the PDP's 2023 vice presidential candidate Ifeanyi Okowa. And of course, most recently, members of the Enugu State Executive Council has defected to the APC following Peter Mba's official declaration for the ruling party on October 19. And don't forget, Bayelsa State Governor Doye Diri also announced his resignation from the PDP, although he is yet to join another party. We'll see what the coming days hold. But then, I would understand while such accusations would be drawn, because the recent defections, It has really not been funny. So you can find more details on the story on page 5 of the Punch newspaper. PDP, NNPP, CUPP accused Tinubu of forcing defections. And now let's take a look at this story before I go on a break. This headline here that says, rumored coup plot, 11 billion naira found in detained Colonel's bank accounts. Rumored coup plot, 11 billion naira found in detained Colonel's bank accounts. Military intelligence traced about 11 billion naira to the bank accounts of a colonel detained over the alleged coup plot involving some senior military officers, Sunday Punch has learned. Top-level security sources told Punch correspondents that the discovery connected the detained officer to the alleged coup. According to an officer familiar with the investigation, the colonel, who served directly under a brigadier general, now also on the probe, had previously been deployed in the Niger Delta region. It says, and I quote, when interrogated, the colonel claimed that the funds belonged to a former governor whom he described as his business partner, while insisting that the money was meant for a legitimate business transaction. So here's a little insight into, or a little peek into how the probe unfolded. Sunday Punch learns that the ongoing probe is part of a wider investigation that began after intelligence reports in August 2024 suggested that some serving military officers were allegedly plotting to overthrow the government. Security sources disclosed that the Defense Intelligence Agency began tracking communications, financial movements, and foreign contacts linked to the suspects months before any arrests were made. And I'll end with this quote from a source that says the core plotters have been under the radar since August 2024 when the service got wind of the plot. They mapped out 3 different times to strike, 2 of which were the June 12 Democracy Day and the October 1st Independence Day this year. They met in the UK and Turkey this year, but the DIA was patiently gathering facts and evidence before swooping in on them. So that's from intelligence sources with this headline, rumored coup plot, 11 billion naira found in detained colonel's bank accounts. You can read more details on the story on page 6 of the Punch newspaper. I'll go on a break now, and when I come back, the Dailies still continues. Don't go anywhere.
Life no get duplicate.
Na so ẹ̀mí ò láàárọ̀ o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni.
Tẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́ o.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o. Make you take am easy.
Na so o.
Radio Afinju says if you drink, don't drive. If you drive, don't drink.
Tẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́ o.
Make you take am easy.
Na so o.
This awareness is brought to you by Radio Afinju.
From the creation story in Genesis to the promises of Revelation, the Bible is filled with stories that have inspired moments and transformed lives in so many ways. Discover how these ancient accounts still speak to us in this modern world. Let's explore the Bible together and uncover the treasures within.
So join me, Pearl Durotoye, as I delve into the rich tapestry of Bible stories
every Sunday,
5 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on Radio Afinju. God is love.
Champions League knockout of all time.
Ẹ̀yin olólùfẹ́ eré ìdárayá ẹ̀yin dà.
ó ti yá láti gbẹnu sí ètò tí yóò máa gbóná rìtìrìtì yeruku lálàlàlá lórí pápá àfínjú. ìròyìn wo lẹ fẹ́ gbọ́ nípa eré ìdárayá? ṣé ti bọ́ọ̀lù aláfẹsẹ̀gbá ni, aláfọwọ́jù sínú apẹ̀rẹ̀, ẹ̀yìn orí kankéré, tàbí ti tábìlì, ẹ̀kẹ́ òmùwẹ̀, tàbí tàwọn abẹ̀sẹ̀ ya máàpù sójú ẹni? má dààmú jìnnà wá gbanú tí Mosúnmọ́lá ọmọ Adégbènró Big Mo, níbi tí yóò ti máa wà yín sí rìn gbé yín débẹ̀ já yín sí mọ tó ń lọ lágbolé eré ìdárayá lórí ètò pápá àfínjú ní gbogbo ìyálẹ̀ta aago 11 sáago 12 ọ̀sán gbẹ̀rẹ̀ lójoojúmọ́ lórí ìkànnì rédíò àfínjú. àyà kàtàkàtà Big Mo ti wọlé dé gìjà. Big Mo àti ikọ̀ àwọn àyànnà eré ìdárayá lèmi yóò ganu sí lórí ìkànnì rédíò àfínjú. ẹ má lọ gọ̀ọ́, pápá àfínjú ni.
aráàlú ń fojú sọ́nà fún dàgbàsókè, olóṣèlú náà ń ṣàlàyé wípé adìyẹ ń làágùn ìyẹn ni ò já mọ̀. ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ará ìlú tilẹ̀ gbàgbọ́ wípé kámúrágbátarágbá ńlọrọ̀ òṣèlú dà nílẹ̀ yìí, ó wá yẹ ká mójú ajé kò ní sọ, ká fa àwọn tó ń ṣèlú súnmọ́ àwọn tí wọ́n ń ṣèlú lé lórí. ìdí rèé tí rédíò àfínjú fi tẹ́pẹ́pẹ́ ètò gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀. lórí gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀ ni Adédayọ̀ Dẹ́rínú ó ti máa fọ̀rọ̀wérọ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn kànrìnkànrìn olóṣèlú nílẹ̀ yìí lórí ibi tí nǹkan dé dúró àti gbogbo làálàá wọn láti jẹ́ káyé dẹrùn sí fún àwọn aráàlú. wọn yóò máa ṣàlàyé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ lórí akitiyan ìjọba táwọn aráàlú náà tí wọn ó sì máa yànnàná àwọn ìpèníjà tí wọ́n ń kojú fún ìjọba. ọjọ́ ajé Monday, ọjọ́rú Wednesday àtọjọ́ ẹtì Friday láago 1 sáago 3 ọ̀sán ní gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀ ó máa wáyé tí yóò sì tún máa wáyé lọ́jọ́ àbámẹ́ta láàrin aago 7 sáago 9 òwúrọ̀. ètò gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀ ó dì létí oṣù tí gbogbo ọmọ aráyé yóò máa wò lórí rédíò àfínjú. Adédayọ̀ Dẹ́rínú ọmọ wọn lẹ́sẹ̀ kòjọ́mọ ònù ni yóò máa tọ́kùn ètò gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀ pẹ̀lú ẹ̀dọ́kì Yorùbá. ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa lórí rédíò àfínjú lórí ojú òpó àti àsìkáyé Facebook, YouTube àti Radio Garden. gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀, ètò tó ń yànnàná ohun tó rújú láàrin ìjọba àtàrà ìlú, ẹ má ṣàlàyé gbọ́.
gbàgede ọ̀rọ̀.
maka akụkọ okwu gbasara ndọrọndọrọ ọchịchị, egwu ma ọ bụ ihe na-eme na Naịjirịa ma ọ bụ ihe na-eme na mba ofesi, omenani, mgbasa ozi, ihe ndị a niile dị na redio Afinju. N'eziokwu, redio Afinju bụ nke izizi na redio stations na Osun steeti. Redio Afinju bụ amaala n'ịgbasa ozi.
Nigeria.
Abụ m onye Nigeria. I am a Nigerian. I'm Swallow Production. Hello, my people. I get one story where I wanna gonna. It gets one to go get country. Some decades ago, for 1960, she got her freedom from the colonial master. Can somebody tell me the name of this country? Somebody tell me the name of this country. Let me hear you say oh. Let me hear you say oh. Nigeria. Somebody help me say oh. Help me say oh. Say oh. Ìlú tó ń ṣe fún wàrà o àti fún oyin. Many natural resources. Honestly, the land.
Yes, so Nigeria is a land flowing with milk, honey, and so many natural resources. And as this song says, God bless Nigeria. Yes, God will bless Nigeria for us, so that even as the milk and honey they flow, we go feed chop from You're welcome back to the Dailies on the radio. Afinju here is where we point you in the right directions on the stories making front pages of your national newspapers. I have been on the Punch newspaper, but I'm still on that. And before I continue on the stories to look at, let's say welcome to Facebook audience Abiola Boluwatife. Thank you so much. He's saying Ako Jumo Aku Isimi. Good morning to you as well, Abiola. Thanks for joining, and thank you again for your support to Radio Afinju. Now let's look at the next story from the Punch newspaper. I'll continue with this headline here that says federal government knows terror sponsors but lacks the courage to prosecute. Federal government knows terror sponsors but lacks the courage to prosecute. This is coming from ex-defense director Ola Wumi. Let's see what the story says. It says, former Deputy Director of Defense Administration at the Defense Headquarters, Commodore Kunle Olawumi, retired, speaks with Daniel Ayontoye about the recent reported coup plot, the rising insecurity, and the arraignment of Nnamdi Kanu among other national among other national issues. And then it says in 2001, following the attack on the NDA facility, it was the opening of the defense headquarters and other military facilities across the country on Fridays for Islamic prayers was queried. And then he was also asked that his position then that religion and sociocultural issues are the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. And then 4 years down the line, what has changed? To which he says he's no longer in the military circle. Let me quote him instead. He says, I am no longer in the military circle, so I wouldn't know if they have reduced congregations at the defense headquarters and other military and paramilitary formations since I left in 2017. My interview then was really talking about my 35 years of military operations. But the big picture is that the issue of religion and socio-cultural matters has pervaded. It is very pervasive and still ongoing. So, if it has changed, I don't think we would have the situation we have in Kwara and Benue State recently. They are getting stronger, and I think President Tinubu needs to act very quickly. What he's doing is trying to be politically correct, and terrorists don't forgive when you make errors in trying to assuage them. You can't negotiate with them. What he needs to do is to round up all the names that have been given to him as terrorist sponsors and try them. And that's only part of the interview with ex-defense director Olawumi. You can read more on this on the page on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Federal government knows terror sponsors but lacks courage to prosecute. And now on to the story that is currently shaking the whole country. Trump to Nigeria, stop the killings or face military action. Stop the killings or face military action. The United States President Donald Trump has threatened to deploy military forces in Nigeria if the alleged genocide against Christians is not stopped in the country. In a post on his Truth Social platform on Saturday, Trump directed the Department of War to prepare for possible actions if the killings continued. The United States President also threatened to halt all aid and assistance to Nigeria if President Bola Tinubu's administration failed to end the alleged persecution and killing of Christians. He says, and I quote, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States of America will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns ablazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action if we attack. It will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attacked our cherished Christians, he said. Tinubu has as well rejected the United States claim. This was a earlier story where Nigeria was designated a country of particular concerns, and this was when Trump said Nigerian Christians were facing existential threats. However, the President Tinubu has faulted the decision, which he described as a misrepresentation of the country's religious reality. But let's not even go into that. Let's talk about this invasion that Trump is threatening. Do you think United States is our savior, or we have to save ourselves as Nigerians? I do not know if we should be invaded, but I think this just calls for concerns on what's currently going on in the country. But you can read more about this story on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. Page 3 of the Punch. Stop the killings or face military action. Trump to Nigeria. And then the last story from the Punch for this morning. World Bank to consider Nigeria's fresh $1 billion loan request. World Bank to consider Nigeria's fresh $1 billion loan request. The World Bank has fixed December 16th as a tentative approval date for a fresh $1 billion development policy financing loan to the country under a new initiative tagged Nigeria Actions for Investment and Jobs Acceleration, P512892. According to a project document published by the bank on October 27th, the new facility comprises a $500 million International Development Association credit and a $500 million International Bank for Reconstruction and Development loan. The facility, which falls under the bank's macroeconomics, trade and investment practice area for the Western and Central African region, is designed to strengthen ongoing economic reforms, promote job creation, and accelerate private investment. The proposed loan is part of the bank's broader support package aimed at consolidating the country's post-reform stability and driving inclusive growth across key sectors. It's a very long story with a lot of details, but I would encourage you to take a look at page 4 of the Punch newspaper to get a hitch on more details on this headline. World Bank to consider Nigeria's fresh $1 billion loan request. And now on to the last newspaper for the morning, The Nation. I'll start with this headline from the resident doctors. Resident doctors begin indefinite nationwide strike over unmet demands. Resident doctors begin indefinite nationwide strike over unmet demands. The National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, yesterday commenced a nationwide total, comprehensive and indefinite strike. The NARD president, Muhammad Suleiman, announced the development in a statement released on Saturday. But the federal government, however, responded quickly with a move to cut short the strike action with a plan to release a sum of 11.9 billion naira within 72 hours to clear outstanding accruement and other allowances owed to health workers. This is the headline that I've talked about before, about the 11.9 billion naira that the federal government planned to disburse to health workers. And then the industrial action follows a 5-hour meeting of the association's National Executive Council held last week, on which members resolved to embark on the strike. Suleiman said the action had become inevitable on account of government's failure to honor the agreements it reached with the body. Says, and I quote, "However, this action has become inevitable following the repeated failure of the federal government of Nigeria to honor its promises and implement the agreements reached with us after several rounds of dialogue, appeals and ultimata. The doctors are demanding fair remuneration, payment of salary arrears, improved working conditions, adequate staffing and the provision of essential medical infrastructure." And also their concerns include excessive workload, which they say directly affects the quality of healthcare delivered to Nigerians. You can read more about these strike actions on page 2 of The Nation. Resident doctors begin indefinite nationwide strike over unmet demands. Page 2 of The Nation. And on to the next story. EFCC suspends officers over alleged 10 million naira extortion of rapper. EFCC suspends officers over alleged 10 million naira extortion of rapper. This is a developing story. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission yesterday said it was investigating an allegation of 10 million naira extortion leveled against some of its officers by a rapper Oladipo Olabode Oladimeji, also known as Oladips. It said the affected officers had been barred from any form of operation duty, and the commission also summoned the officers to its headquarters in Abuja, but it promised to take action against the rapper if the allegation is found to be false or raised to malign the commission and tarnish its image. The EFCC made its position known in a statement issued by its head of media and publicity, Daily Oyewale, where the statement says, and I quote, The EFCC views with great concern the allegation of extortion made against some of its operatives by a Nigerian rapper Ola Deeps. The hip-hop artist gravely alleged that operatives of the commission extorted a sum of 10 million naira from him before securing his release when he was arrested alongside other suspected internet fraudsters. So I'm just going to give a little background to this story. A few days back, Ola Deeps was arrested by men of the EFCC, and from what he explained, he was in his apartment at his estate, and news that EFCC are in the vicinity sprung up. But of course, you do not have to. The guilty fears no accusation, right? So he was just in his home doing his thing. I mean, you don't need to be bothered if EFCC is around, as long as you're innocent. At least that is what I think it should be. However, he claims the men of the EFCC barged into his apartment through his kitchen, seized his two phones. They asked him for his laptop, of which he says he doesn't own one. They seized his two phones. They checked his two phones. They couldn't find anything incriminating. But again, that did not stop them from arresting him. And so he was arrested and he was released after he dropped 10 million naira. So he was released, and then he came out accusing the EFCC of extorting him of 10 million naira. So this is the development from the story, because the officers mentioned have been barred from operation while investigations are ongoing. So we'll see how that unfolds in the coming days. And then for the last story for this morning, I will end it with this headline that says Tinubu rejects the U.S. redesignation of Nigeria as a country of concern. But sorry, the last story I read, EFCC suspends officers over alleged 10 million naira extortion of rapper. You can find that story on page 6 of The Nation. Page 6 of The Nation. And so back to this story. Tinubu rejects the U.S. redesignation of Nigeria as country of concern. President Bola Tinubu yesterday faulted Friday's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern by the United States. He declared that allegation of persecution of Christians in Nigeria by President Donald Trump was way off the reality of the situation in the country. The Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs groups and individuals took to social media and other outlets yesterday to reject the U.S. tag. The White House had named Nigeria among countries accused of failing to prevent or tolerating severe violations of religious freedom. In a follow-up to his Friday redesignation of Nigeria, Trump also threatened military strikes against the terrorists involved in the alleged Christian genocide. I've talked about this in a previous headline. And then Tinubu, in the statement posted on his verified X handle, insisted that the Washington characterization of Nigeria did not align with the nation's reality or constitutional values. And according to him, Nigeria remains a pluralistic democracy committed to protecting the rights of all religious people. And I'll end this with this quote from the president. Nigeria stands firmly as a democracy governed by constitutional guarantees of religious liberty. Since 2023, our administration has maintained an open and active engagement with Christian and Muslim leaders alike and continues to address security challenges which affect citizens across faiths and regions. That is from the president. Tinubu rejects the U.S. redesignation of Nigeria as a country of concern. You can read more of this about this headline on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. And that's where I'll call it a wrap on the dailies for this morning. I hope you enjoyed this edition, and I hope you, as you go out and grab your newspapers, you know where to look, what page to look for, what story. Until I come your way again next time, my name is Pearl Durotoye. And don't forget to go to church for Thanksgiving, okay? It is the 11th month in the year 2025. You need to do some Thanksgiving, so I hope you will do just that. I'll see you again on other shows. Have a splendid Sunday and enjoy the rest of your week.
For up-to-date tori wey no get filter,